Welcome back, everybody, to Duckman's Flying Volkswagen Extravaganza. Right behind me here we have a 1968 Volkswagen Beetle that I started to take apart this week, and I wanted to make more videos on it, but I unfortunately did not, because I'm trying to stay ahead of this weather. The forecast today is supposed to be just miserable, and well, it hasn't rained a drop, even though the radar looks like absolute crap. But we're going to have a walk around this thing, and I'm going to show you a little bit about what I did this week, and about some of the things that I'm handling on it, as well as some repairs that will be coming up, as well as heater channel stuff, which I know you guys have wanted me to make a specific video on that. Well, this is going to be the video series for it. So, I guess what you need to do is licky, likey, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to plug that dingle bell so you get updates every time I upload a video. Check out duckshit.net for all my social media links. And we'll be back right after that intro. Alright, we're back. I met the owner of this car as a friend of a friend of a friend. I actually know people that know Earl, and they said, who in the area does Volkswagens? Well, I happen to be the guy. But this one came through here with heater channels being required. When I first looked at the car, he showed up at tech session with it, and I said, you know, those heater channels aren't too bad. And now that he's torn the car apart, they're bad. They're very bad. Much worse than I thought it was going to be. This one, not quite as bad as the other side. Still terrible because it's missing a bottom right here in this spot. So we're going to get these things cut out of here. Not in this video, but we're going to be doing that coming up very shortly. Probably as soon as next week I'm going to start tearing this thing apart. Otherwise, the car is solid. It is stable. It's holding together. It does have some holes in the package tray area. We have a replacement piece for that, which is right here. Covered in pollen, too. That was clean this morning when I put it there. And now it's just covered in yellow pollen. The wind's been blowing like crazy today. Anyway, over here is our floor pan. You can see I've already ripped the floor pans out. And this time I didn't cut them the traditional way by using a Sawzall or a plasma cutter or an angle grinder or chainsaw or, you know, whatever else you got. This time around I actually unzipped them. In other words, I just beat them loose and then I literally ripped the panel out. Just ripped through the welds. And if you look at the welds, you can see where they're all been pulled out. All the spot welds have been pulled out. So the floor pan is pretty much intact. Except for where, of course, it was so badly welded that it just started to shred apart. But if you look, you see, they just kind of unzipped it. And, well, that saved me a lot of time and a lot of effort. But today, I'll tell you what, my hands are paying for it, my shoulders are paying for it. I wouldn't recommend it to the average-sized person that doesn't have a whole lot of strength in their upper body because, well, that was a lot of work. I'm sure somebody down below is going to say they want to see that on video. And I will demonstrate that coming up in another video. I didn't know what to expect on this one, like I said, and I was hurrying to get it done before the rainstorm as much as I can. Anyway, this is the chassis with the pans removed. This is the new floor pan put into place. And I did this because people always say, hey, Duckman, how do you know if your bolt holes are going to line up if you don't match it up with the heater channel? And I don't always get that luxury. This time around I did because we're doing both the heater channels and the floor pans on the same car. So this time around, yep, I could get the bolts started. Those holes didn't line up, by the way. It was bad. Really bad. So I put the first bolt in, and then I lifted the heater channel up, and I put in the last bolt. The last bolt's technically here, but it's a little hard to get to that one, so I picked this one. Then this one lined up, this one lined up, this one did not line up. This one does not line up. This one does not line up, and that one does not line up. So, usually when I get these floor pans done and in the car, I run a taper drill bit through there, and I open up the holes about a quarter of an inch all the way around, or roughly half an inch all the way across the hole. And at that point, my screw holes, they've always lined up, with the exception of one or two cars where I had a problem with this one right here in the bend. This is usually the one that's worse. Now, even if I loosen these and I jostle this thing all around, they still don't line up. And these pans and heater channels, by the way, both come from the same manufacturer. So it just goes to show that even they don't know what they're doing. Now, you might also just say, well, maybe it's just the one side that's like that, right? But we have another floor pan over here, another heater channel. Put the first bolt in. Couldn't get the last bolt in. For some reason, it just didn't want to slop. So I put the second one in here. That one doesn't line up. 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 And that one almost lines up. And that's usually the one that's really bad. But that one's not too bad. So these all have to be opened up. I got to open up all these holes on this thing before I mount these heater channels in there. But it's pretty safe to say that just widening the hole is going to handle it. You know, what else is new is that they're not just this way straight, but they're also not spaced evenly. You see how this one is that way, and this one is this way, and this one is way over that way. The whole spacing's not even. And that was something I encountered on the Blue Beetle that I had here back in 2020, where I did both floor pans and heater channels on it. And I did them at separate times on that car with manufactured parts from 2 different companies. So it was amazing. Everything even lined up at all. It was just a mess. And by the way, this was the heaviest floor pan that I've ever flipped over. And you guys have watched me do that before on video. I usually use my orange stick here. And this orange stick is bent. I actually bent it lifting this floor pan. I don't know why it's so incredibly heavy. If I have to guess, it's probably because these floor pans are a little more solid and intact than most cars that I usually work on. Plus, we have these massive wheels and tires on here, so this is a lot of weight, guys. And that gets a little heavy to lift. Not only that, but they're so wide that it causes me to have less leverage when I roll the thing over. So I had everything fighting against me. And nonetheless, I bent my orange pole, which I can't believe I even did that. Because I've been using that thing for the last 15 years to roll over floor pans. And not once have I ever had a situation except this one. Anyway, if it was any heavier, I would have had to have had help. But I got it, I flipped it up, and well, I'm not looking forward to flipping it back the other way because of just how heavy that actually was. That sucked. To bend that pole, that's just incredible. This is like a jack handle, guys. And if you ever used a jack handle before off of your floor jack, and here's one here. Big heavy-duty floor jack with that handle. You could take those things and you could lift all kinds of things, and they don't bend. It bent. That's just absolutely incredible that it did what it did. I still can't believe it. Anyways, that's where we're at on this. We will be working on this week, trying to get these floor pans back up here mounted. I also welded up the tunnel here. You can see it's nice and shiny because I put some paint on it. And I did the same thing over here because somebody had cut holes in the tunnel. And the reason why the holes were cut is because, and this is going to throw you guys a little bit, you notice this is an independent rear suspension. This is also a 1968. And you say, well, independent rear suspension didn't start until 69. That's kind of true, but kind of not. In 69, the entire Volkswagen lineup had IRS rear suspension. In 68, especially on Type 3s and on Beetles and Karmann Ghias, only automatics or semi-autos actually got the IRS rear suspension. So, again, you might be saying, well, this is a semi-auto then, right? Why does it have a manual transmission in it? That's the reason why somebody cut the tube open, was to install a clutch cable tube. So, yeah, they cut it up, butchered it, and then they just put, looked like Gorilla Tape over it, and they expected that to just seal it up. Anyway, no good. Patched now. I filled those holes in. So we're in really, really good shape on this thing to continue. And what I will do is next, I got to get a little clearance in here, as this corner is hitting the metal tank. So either I have to cut the corner out of the pan, or I got to clearance the chassis here to make this fit. But once that goes in, then I can start welding on this side, and this side is whole. Then I can take the bolts back out and pull the heater channels out, and then start doing the other side. But that's where we stand. Otherwise, this unzipping method, that works good, but I am sore. I've just been pounding the ibuprofen since. Oh, and I even put the body up here on this dolly by myself, as to be expected, I suppose. I did it a little differently this time around. This time around, I pushed the dolly up to the front of the car, and then I lifted the car, and yeah, I can actually do it with one hand. So, it's heavy, but it's not like out of Duckman League heavy. So anyway, I was able to lift it up. Then I rolled the dolly, grabbing it from the other end and pulling it underneath. As soon as I got it under the front, then at that point it was a lot easier because I could get under this with my shoulders, just stand up, and then shimmy the dolly to where it needed to go. And it went a couple feet at a time until finally it got to this point, which is actually what crushed what remains of the heater channel here. And then teetered it up into position. And then it just slotted itself in because you see how it comes into this scalloped area. Same over here. The dolly just kind of rests in there. So once it fell into position, that was it. This dolly was in bad shape too, guys. I've been using this, not quite 20 years, a little less than that. It's had every single Volkswagen on it since my ex was even around. Her Karmann Ghia was the first one that went up on it. And that was, I guess it was 15 years ago. That's why I built it. But this time I did the heavier method and lifted it and kind of slung the body up onto it. This actually has the ability to, because it's mounted with hinges, to knock the hinge pins out of it and disassemble this. So I can assemble it around the car, and then putting just one hinge pin in, lifting it, I can swing it in a position, stick the pin back in, and then move to the other side and do the same thing. So that's probably the easier way to get it up here, but anyway. I didn't do that this time. I just kind of dragged it over the top of it and got it going. Yes, it's over my fire pit, and currently it's full of all the leftover rubbers and tar pads and chicken shit I've been scraping out of the cages. If you do have chicken shit, don't throw it on your grass. It kills your grass. It's a little too hot for grass. You have to let it ferment a bit. So if you have a compost heap, it's probably the best way to handle that. But in my case, I don't. So chicken shit goes in the fire, because if you just throw it in the yard somewhere, even where there's no grass, it turns into a thick mud when it gets rained on. And then it sticks to your shoes and everything else. And it starts to stink outside. So yeah, it goes in the fire pit. Otherwise, in here, ooh, got away from me. No rust to speak of. This is looking pretty good. You can see all the weird holes for the auto stick stuff. And there's a package hole rust that we knew about from the inside. And up front, in the apron area, that was pretty good too. I didn't see anything in there that really stood out as being a problem. So this one's in otherwise decent shape, except for what you see typically on these things. The bottom half of these cars is where they rust. It does look like somebody might have hit it here or something and used a slide hammer with the screw attachment, like my Morgan knocker, slide it in there and then pulled it out. So I'm going to guess this was borked because it's nice and bumpy, and they put a lot of Bondo over it, and then of course it got rusty underneath there, and that's just what happens. Plus the door clearance, look at how tight that is. It's pinched so tight. You can put a piece of paper in there and get it stuck. So yeah, it's not the way it's supposed to be. So I'll be working on that a little bit too, see if I can spread that out just a bit. The gap on this side is really wide, so that door is definitely moved. And yeah, the door does fall down, but currently it's not bolted in on the bottom, so I need to tighten those screws up before I get to work on this thing, because I think what we're going to do is we're going to do one side at a time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to weld the door shut here and here, so that way it's solid. No bracing is required, because the door becomes the brace. It becomes part of the chassis, unibody, I should say. And you can't open it, and it also stops me from accidentally opening it, while I can still go in and out from the other side and do the work. So that way this should be good to go, nice and solid. And then of course, when this is done, then I'll cut it out, and then we'll do our adjustments to whatever needs to be done here to open up these doors or what have you. So I think I can make that work. Well, I guess that's about it. Otherwise, today was supposed to be a rainy day, so I spent most of my day inside working with electronics, specifically Eleanor-related stuff, and other folks have wanted specific things from my electronics that Eleanor can do, some of the capabilities, and they didn't want the entire array of Eleanor abilities, like the touch screen and all that fancy stuff. They just wanted some of the switch mechanisms and such, and just combining signals and eliminating excessive switches, or just creature comfort things, it makes the car easier to use, or even modernize it in some ways. So I'm making little modules that you can plug directly into your wiring harness to do certain things. It really tricks out the car. It makes it, easier to live with. And for whatever that's worth, it also makes the load lighter on a lot of the switches that are in the car, because they're getting expensive and harder to find nowadays, especially with all that China crap that's on the market. The switches are just bad. Just bad. It's hard to find a good one. But these little adapters and such also allow you to use any switch you want. That makes it nice and easy, doesn't it? Alright. Well, I guess that's about it for today. So, likey, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to plug that dingabell so you get updates every time I upload a video. Check out duckshit.net for all my different social media links. We'll be working on some more on this week, and hopefully another video. There's the ducks, Dizzy and Dusty. There's the girls, the chickens. Right in there is Cheeky and Cheeky J. That's right, I named Cheeky after her mother. But Cheeky J is like Cheeky Jr. CJ, that's right. I got them two together, and she doesn't have her brother with her because her brother has been beating up her mother. He's getting to that age now, he's starting to make a little noise, but anyway, we're going to let them all out. But now, all the boys get to play together, including the young one. I said, you want to beat up on your mom? You want to beat up on the girls? Now you get to play with the boys. So I put him outside, and immediately he was chased and pecked at, and he learned his lesson. But now he's going to be spending the rest of his life with the boys, because that's the way he behaves. Alright, and of course there's the trailer I've been working on. You guys watched me do the wiring harness on that last week. I haven't moved the car since. I've actually just been so damn busy with other stuff. But that's life. See you guys next time. Thanks for watching.